Hi there folks, it's Daniel here, and today we're going to be talking about my magical eyes action. It's one of those actions that you probably haven't seen in action. Excuse the pun, but there you have it. It's one of those actions that you haven't really seen me use, and there's a good reason for that. And that reason is that I'm achieving good light patterns in my portraits, and it's negating the use of this magical eyes action, okay? So I just wanted to sort of cover this subject today a little bit and just give you guys a reason why you probably haven't seen me using it. But upon closer inspection of this portrait over here, you probably going to say, well, Dan, it definitely looks like you've used a strobe or at least a reflector to light your subject in this case. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The use of strobes and reflectors for my outdoor portraits is non-existent, okay? In other words, 99.999999% of my portraits are shot in natural light. Now, there seems to be this misconception that catchlights in subjects' eyes can only be created by strobes or reflectors, and that just simply isn't true. Now, the structure of eyes is such that it actually reflects light naturally because it's a glossy surface. So if you point your subject towards any points of light, that's the light that's going to be reflected back in their eyes, okay? And it's, you could put it this way. It's like putting your subject near a window, and the windows, or the light coming through the window, will naturally create a catchlight in your subject's eyes, and it'll be in the shape of a square or a circle or an arch or whatever shape that window is. That's the light that's reflecting back off the eyes of your subject, okay? So that's creating a natural catchlight in a subject's eyes. Now, I've got photographers out there, they'll swear blindly that I'm using strobes and reflectors in my work, and it just isn't the case, okay? I'm positioning subjects in my scenes in such a way that I'm maximizing the amount of light in my subject's face and in turn into my subject's eyes. I know for a fact that when I've got these beautiful catchlights in my subject's eyes, I know that the eyes are going to be naturally bright. They're going to stand out. They're going to have that glimmer, that pizzazz, if you would call it that. And when you look at this portrait of Amy, it's the first things our eyes gravitate towards. And this is a natural process. When we speak to people, our eyes naturally gravitate to our subject's eyes. The eyes are the windows to the soul of our subject, essentially. Now, just a little quick story here. I remember years ago when Amy was much younger, when she started feeling ill, her eyes used to water up and they'd get this glossy effect. My wife would say, it doesn't look like Amy's very well at the moment because her eyes are all glossy. And it kind of made me keep thinking like, it's a good time to put her in front of the camera and get the best catchlights ever because her eyes would be extra glossy, okay? But it's just the nature of eyes. They're glossy. They reflect light off, okay? So if you point your subjects to any point source of light, the eyes are going to be glimmering. They're going to have those little catchlights or those little sparkles, okay? When I zoom into this image over here, you can kind of actually see the structure of that catchlight, okay? It's kind of like it's got a jagged shape over here. And that's just due to the tree formations behind me. The skies above this chateau, this little chateau over here, the skies above the chateau were quite bright, and that formed the structure of the light that's in this particular scene. And I know that when I'm seeing these little catchlights in the eyes, I know the eyes are going to be bright, and the rest of my portrait is going to start falling into place. And when you look at this image over here, it almost looks like it's being captured with a beauty dish in a downward wash of light, because we've got a shadow underneath the nose here, we've got a shadow underneath the chin here, and overall it's that beauty dish lighting pattern, okay? So this is the structure of the light. The light in the eyes are good, and it's soft natural light here, it's soft diffused light, and that is carried forward in the shaded areas over here, you can see that we're shooting in this nice soft light pattern. In fact, this is an indirect light pattern because the eyes are picking up light that's further away from us in a different part of our scene here. It's above that chateau. It's shining into Amy's eyes. So the catch lights in this instance here are created by indirect light that is much further away. Okay, the rest of my scene falls into shade and I'm getting this soft, natural wash of light across my scene. Okay, so let's get stuck into using this magical eyes action. Now, I just want to say that I would probably say that this magical eyes action is designed for those of you who may not have gotten the best results you could when you shot the image initially, and you might need that little extra help of brightening up the eyes or sharpening the eyes, etc. So let's run this action. Just be aware that I feel like Amy's eyes in this instance are absolutely fine. There isn't anything that we really need to do with this portrait, but I wanted to bring this particular portrait up on our screen as an example of how I'm achieving these good light patterns in my subject's eyes that kind of negate the use of the magical eyes action. So that doesn't mean that this can't be used anywhere. I'm going to run the action here. Now this is a large 50 megapixel image, so this process might take a few moments to load up, and there's going to be several layers. Okay, so we'll just wait for this to load up over here. Once that's done, you'll see that the action, once we press play, creates several layers over here. So the very first layer that we see here is the sharpen eyes layer. Okay, so what you need to do is click on the layer mask right here, and we'll go over to our brush tool. We'll make sure that the brush is set to white. Okay, now our opacity is entirely up to you. I'm going to keep it at 100% here, and I'm just going to zoom into Amy's eyes and paint over the iris area here. Okay, center of the eye. I'm just going to paint over it once, and you'll instantly see that we're getting this beautiful sharpness to Amy's eyes there. So before and after, we're adding in that additional sharpness to her eyes. Okay, not that it wasn't sharp at all to begin with, but we've just added that extra sense of sharpness to the eyes. Now let's say, for example, you lost the sharpness a little bit on your eyes of your subject. You can use the sharpen eyes part of this action to bring back that sharpness. The next step below that is the iris color changer. Okay, so over here again with the brush tool, I'm going to set my flow very low here to maybe even 10%, and I'm just going to paint once over this eye here and once over this eye over here, and you'll notice that it's adding in a little bit of blue to Amy's eyes, and that's because I've set this part over here to blue naturally. The hue is set to blue here, and the color overlay is set to color, or the blending mode over here is set to color. So if I move the slider over here, this is going to change to all kinds of colors, whichever ones you want here. Okay, just going to leave it on blue for the purpose of this tutorial. Okay, so before and after, it adds a little extra zing of blue into Amy's eyes there. Again, like I said, it's not really necessary in this case here, but I'm just demonstrating that it is there for you guys to use. Okay, so we can obviously adjust the opacity of those layers to our liking, so maybe even there. I think that's fine. Okay, the next step from that there is the iris, or the darken iris outline. So what is that? That's this little area right here, this little dark outline around the subject's eyes. Okay, in Amy's case, that dark outline is quite dark to begin with, but we can come into our brush tool here, and again with a very low flow, let's say for example 5%, and I can adjust the size of my brush to about the size of the iris outline naturally there, and I can just darken it however much I want. Okay, there we go, and I'm only doing this lightly because the iris of Amy's eyes, or that iris outline of Amy's eyes, is very dark to begin with. So before and after. The next layer underneath it is the brighten eyes, and you'll naturally see that I've actually written 5% flow right in there. And I found that was sort of a happy medium when I did use it, that is. And you can add in that little extra bit of light into the eyes, okay? If you find that the subject's eyes are a little bit dark in your instance, you can add the brightness of the eyes using this layer over here. Underneath that, let's say hypothetically I missed my catchlights completely. I may have had a very flat lighting pattern on the day and there wasn't any light sources to kick up those catchlights in the eyes naturally. This is the add catchlights layer that you're going to be wanting to use. So we'll zoom in there. And again, in this case over here, we can actually increase the float to 100% so we can maximize this effect. And let's say, for example, we needed a catchlight there. We could tap several times with our mouse or whatever we're using just to add a spot of light into the eye there. And we can do it in the similar position, the side here. Tap, tap, tap a few times until we get this little bright spot going on there, okay? If I continue going in circular forms there, you'll kind of see that we're adding in an extra catchlight there, okay? In this case, we've got a beautiful catchlight there to begin with, okay? So again, like I said, if it is missing a catchlight, you can add the catchlight there. Underneath that, we've got whiten eyes. So what does that do? When we zoom into our eyes here, we are going to go with our brush tool here. We'll set the flow to 100%. Then we'll paint into the eye area right here. And what that's essentially doing is getting rid of that little redness in the eye. Let's say here in the corner here. As we paint over this portion of my subject's eye, we're whitening that area of the eye, okay? Right into the corner here where you see those red edges there and those little blood vessels in the eye. We're sort of pushing them back with this action here, okay? That's the whiten eyes action. And that's exactly what it's doing. It's whitening the eyes. Now, in this case over here, Amy has turned into a little alien girl here. So what we need to do is, I think in this case here, is just switch it off completely, or we'll reduce the opacity. And again, just to repeat myself here, if you've got great light on your subject, it kind of negates the purpose of using the magical eyes action. And this is why you haven't seen me use it very much, okay? If at all. I think maybe 1 or 2 tutorials I used the action. So what I've done is I've essentially designed the magical eyes action for those of you who still battle to get good light into the eyes. This is just going to help you with existing images where you might not have had great light in the eyes of subjects. It's going to help sort of boost up the sharpness, the brightness, etc., just to create that little extra zing for the eyes of your portraits. So there you have it, folks. This is a demonstration of the magical eyes action inside of Photoshop. I just wanted to say thank you very much for your awesome support, and we'll see you in the next session. Cheers for now.